Back here at Radio Row here in New Orleans, joined by someone who's, I'm sure, familiar with the area. It's Meghan Payton, of course, the daughter of Sean Payton, but also here in town for FanDuel TV. Meghan, so good to have you in person. How's New Orleans treating you so far?
It's been great, Chance. It feels so great to be here with you in person after doing so much work this season, getting to talk about all of the bets. But we're here. It's the biggest week for the NFL, and I don't know about you, but being in the betting space, we've had an extra week to think about all of our bets. You start to kind of like almost talk yourself out of your original bet. So what I've been saying to myself is like, go with the gut, go with what you said last week, and we're just going to keep riding with that.
I'm someone who I don't even like to look at the props until like the night of, like an hour before, and then it's like unload it all, write it down in a notebook so I have everything. It's my favorite time, like my favorite just night of just unloading everything. For you, do you have anything that would like jump off at the page of you, or like anything that's like a traditional bet, like I have to bet this every single year in the Super Bowl?
Well, obviously you've got to go with the Gatorade color. I'm riding with the blue this year. That's my Gatorade choice. I really just base that off of vibes, and I think that we're gonna see a team color for the Gatorade.
Yes.
But anyway, you got to jump in on the props. Of course, some of the game specials, the markets are the best that they ever are for Super Bowl.
Yes.
I also think it's a good time to look at some of the maybe less known players. Like, you know people are going to be betting on Travis Kelce. You know people are going to be betting on Saquon. They're going to be betting on Mahomes. And so I always try to find a sleeper. And, of course, I've got one for you today.
Oh, yeah. I think that this week, more than anything, is about the sleepers. There's always somebody that scores. Like Jawan Jennings last year, I mean, he damn near could have won the MVP. I think he ran for one, threw for one, and he did catch one, but it was just an absurd one. I feel more and more like this is going to be a lower-scoring Super Bowl, not like the one we saw 2 years ago, and that hurts the player prop market. Is that kind of how you see things playing out?
I do see it being a low-scoring game. The under has hit in Super Bowls, I believe it's 5 of the last 6 or 4 of the last 5, and the one time it was the over was that Chiefs-Eagles game, but reminder, this Eagles defense is not what it was back then. I mean, we've got the two best defensive coordinators in the league, and Spags and Vic Fangio going against each other.
Yeah.
What I think are the two best defenses just in general. I don't think it's going to be that track meet or that shootout that obviously you kind of hope for in a Super Bowl. And that, how does that affect the prop market? Of course, maybe some unders, but I definitely did jump in on the under in terms of total.
Yeah, I think that's probably the direction a lot of people are going to lean. But the three-peat, just the magnitude of it, it feels like everybody's going to be all over the Eagles. I haven't looked at where the money is coming in at right now. I'd imagine the sharps are going to get in kind of around kickoff or around that later window on Sunday. Where do you see this game being decided, whether it be on the Eagles or the Chiefs side?
Okay, well, I guess to break the news, I'm sorry, Wichita, I am taking the Eagles, but I think that it's going to be a really close game.
Yeah.
If you're looking for an edge for Kansas City, I do think special teams, they've got the best special teams coordinator in the league. So, in a game where everything's tight, you've got to find little edges, and I do think that we'll see that with Kansas City. However, I ultimately look at all season long, and what Philly has done on all 3 levels is the reason that I'm betting on the Eagles. And I know it's never fun to bet against Patrick Mahomes, but I'm betting on that rushing attack with Saquon. But not only that, if you do eliminate Saquon, don't forget, like on the outside, you've got A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. I feel like Devontae Smith has gone under the radar all season long. If you throw Devontae onto, let's say, 15 other teams in the league, he's wide receiver one.
Yeah.
And then you've got Dallas Goedert, who in the postseason definitely starts to rise up. There are a lot of ways the Eagles can win. It starts on offense, but on defense, they've got to create those negative plays. I think we've got to see some interior defense pressure. I mean, you got Jalen Carter. You've got enough weapons on defense to sack Mahomes, create some turnovers, and that's going to be the key to victory.
Jalen Carter, I feel like, is the big matchup to watch. I would imagine he lines up on the left side against Caliendo most of the time. Defensive prop-wise, do you ever get into defensive props at all?
I'll jump in sometimes. I haven't in this game yet. I'd rather jump in and play like a Mahomes interception because, I mean, first of all, he throws picks in Super Bowls. Like that is what Mahomes does. And I do think that if you look at the Eagles secondary, honestly, every guy in the secondary should beat their man-to-man coverage or their zone coverage with the Chiefs wide receivers. That's an angle I'd be looking at if you're trying to jump in on a quote-unquote defensive prop. It would just be Mahomes to throw an interception.
And for Chiefs receivers, it feels like it's kind of one guy's night and then nobody else contributes at all. Last week, Juju had a big game, but Xavier Worthy's kind of been consistent in that window, being a consistent receiver for them. Feels like DeAndre Hopkins is just lying in the weeds right now, and this might be the spot for him to come out. Is that kind of how you see things being played out?
I mean, I definitely think Hopkins could have a big game. I hinted at a sleeper prop. In terms of Kansas City Chiefs player props, my favorite one's actually Samaje Perine.
Okay.
And hear me out here. His receiving yard line is at 7.5. And this is not a joke. He has gone over that 14 of the last 15 games.
Yeah.
He had 17 receiving yards in the AFC Championship against the Bills. And what I like about Samaje is obviously he's a third down back. He'll be used in special teams as well. But he's got that power to break on the second level. So if he gets one reception, he can use that burst to kind of take off. And I think that we're going to see a lot of pressure from the Eagles. So he's used in play action checkdowns. I think Samaje is, in terms of value, the best player prop to be looking at for the Kansas City Chiefs.
And when it comes to touchdown scorers, that's probably what everybody's going to be in on, first touchdown scorer and all that jazz. Who are you getting in on for the first touchdown?
I like Dallas Goedert anytime touchdown, and of course then I would jump on it for first time if you want. Saquon, first time touchdown is probably the best way to get value on Saquon. But for Dallas Goedert, in the postseason, he leads the Eagles in receptions. He leads the Eagles in receiving yards. The Kansas City Chiefs have struggled all year long against tight ends. So I think the matchup works really well for Goddard. I'm betting on him over his receiving yards, and I'm also betting him to get in the end zone.
Meghan, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate you for stopping by, and best of luck on all your bets this weekend.
Thank you, Chance. So great to see you in person.
Yes, absolutely.